Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and today I get to interview Juan. So Juan, welcome, man.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So just a heads up for those watching. I'm just recovering from being sick, so my voice is kind of out. But so Juan, thanks for coming out. Can you please let everyone know what your full type is?
Yeah, I am an INTP jumper, masculine, feminine, TI, sleep, consume, play, blast, and personality type number three.
Gotcha. So what did you think, and how did you feel when you got your typing results back?
Um, it was expected. For a very long time since high school, I was typed as a INTP, and then it was only just recently where I started coming out as INTJ, and every so often as an ENTJ. And I knew something was amiss, so I just kept researching, and then I found OPS, and then finally I just decided to kind of take an objective assessment, and that's when I came out with INTP. I was surprised about the jumper part, but wasn't too surprised about just INTP in general.
Yeah. So what did you think about that, like being like an INTP, but not the traditional kind, but the TISI version?
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I the way that Day's report broke it down, I do see the SI a little more dominant than the NE. So I can definitely see that now, and I definitely do see the I knew Blast was definitely last as well. Um, but it was interesting to see that it was I think it was that it was a double. I'm a double observer, um, something like that. So it wasn't too um, shocking, but still processing it.
Gotcha. Well, the thing is, even though you're lead sleep, you're still double activated anti-consume. So, like the traditional INTP is still kind of within you because it's double activated. It's just that, you would be organized over gather,
Okay.
as a result of being TISI. So let's start with that first. Let's cover your first animal, your ST sleep. Let's look at the different aspects of it. First of all, it makes you organize over gather, even though you're double observing, essentially. Yes, double observing essentially. Can you talk about like being a little bit more, like not wanting chaos, but like preferring more control and more organization as opposed to, you know, gathering in chaos?
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely look for organization. I definitely in my workspace or my living environment, but also in my head, I tend to not want too much clutter. So I try to prioritize the important information. So that's definitely a big thing for me. Um, I used to, when I was younger, I guess I used to do a lot of um, over consuming and stuff like that. And to know real, not to know no real usage. I mean, I wouldn't really use it. It was just for my own sake. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of seen the purpose of not just consuming just for pleasure, but more for practical use or for real world use. So yeah.
So part of ST sleep is competence, which is your identity being tied to competence. Can you share a little bit about like competence being really important to you and being a competent person is being really important to you and like coming across as incompetent would be like the worst thing possible, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. I mean, I'm not, I'm not gonna show off and pretend to be competent in everything I do. If I feel like I'm not competent in something, I'll definitely let people know, hey, this isn't my expertise. But if it's something that I really enjoy or something at work, that, it's been trusted on me, I'll try to focus all my energies and attention on that one thing and really try to outshine or outperform. Um, and specifically in my in my hobbies. I'm I'm an aspiring writer, so I try to be very focused on that, on just refining and improving my writing skills. And that's probably the most dominating thing that I try to show expertise in.
Gotcha. So that's your area of specialist, essentially, like as a number three.
Yeah.
We'll touch on more about that later on when we talk about social types. But my next question in regards to ST sleep then is something that someone said to me a long time ago during an interview. He was an ENTP. he said that pretty much SITI is having a body that works, right? So
Mhm.
a good example of that is Brian Johnson, who is like a similar type as you. You've probably seen have you seen his videos, by the way?
I haven't, no.
Okay, so Brian Johnson, do you know him? The guy who's obsessed with living forever?
No, no.
Okay, well, it's fine. You're an IP. I understand you don't scan the tribe spectrum, but regardless, just making fun of you. So regardless, so he's popular right now because he's trying to live forever, and he measures every single data about his organ health, what he's eating, and how
Mhm.
it affects his organs, his longevity and whatnot. So
Mhm.
definitely, what I can see from people with SITI is making sure that from the concept of a body that works, that every health routine that you participate in is ensuring that everything is in optimal working order in terms of your body. So basically,
Mhm.
you have the optimal routine for exercise that would work
Mhm.
best for you for your specific body, um,
Mhm.
optimal diet that would make you your best version of how your body would operate, sleep
Mhm.
schedule as well, right? Having like
Mhm.
the optimal sleep schedule or any routine that relates to having the best sleep possible so that you have the
Mhm.
maximum energy the following day to perform at your best. And as
Mhm.
well as stress management, right? And emotional management is also part of that too, right? So, can you share a little bit of what, like, do you have like a routine that covers those four areas that I just mentioned? And if you do, what does it look like?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's only in recent years, maybe in the last year or two, that I really took a big focus on that. Um, but definitely, yeah, I think I try to straight off of the junk food, and I really focus more on having a Mediterranean diet. So it's really just consists of salads and um, um, white meat or fish and fruits and protein bars. I'm very active in the gym as well, and I try to sleep no later than 11 o'clock. I try to have my reading schedule a little before going to bed. Wake up at 7, even if it's on the weekend. I'm always waking up at 7. Um, so it's pretty consistent down the line. And but yeah, I definitely saw like you said, everything has to run optimally, and this is with kind of like an insight into the future. I'm thinking if I take care of myself now, starting at this young age, then I have a greater outlook down the line, and not only for my own sake, but for the people that I love as well around me. My family and friends. I can perform to my best ability. And one of the big things, like you mentioned, is really that mental health. So whatever I can do, whether it's solving crossword puzzles or playing chess or just reading or just having conversations, just building on those neurons and just uh, giving myself more exposure to the outside world, and also giving importance to introspection. Everything like that is a really big deal for me. Like you said, it's all about just presenting to the world the best version of me that I possibly can.
Gotcha. So as an IP type, can you talk about like the importance of, having respect from other people and, having that coming across as your best self when you're presenting yourself to the tribe to make sure that you're seen in a good light as opposed to like a more negative one. You do have as savior flex as well as a number three. So obviously that's going to play into a part into that. So just feel free to just share of what your thoughts are in that aspect.
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely do want to present the best the best version of myself, but I also want to present the most honest version of myself. And sometimes I think it's, I try my best never to put up any facades. Um, and really the only way you can really see if someone's worth, hanging on to is to present yourself the best or the true self. So I'll act silly. I'll be a little punchy with people. I'll, engage in banter or whatever. And I'll sometimes just play the dumb fool just to see, how well I can keep this relationship going. But yeah, it is a big deal for me to gain people's respect as well. That's probably one of the things that I look for the most. Is just to have that respect from others, not just in my work, but also in my and my personality, and they respect my time and respect the person that I am.
Right, right. Well, that's a good point that you bring up, by the way, because ultimately, um, people are gonna like you based on who you are. So if you only show your good side and not your bad side, then they're not seeing the full picture of yourself as a person, right? So like you said, when you act like a fool, right? It's like it's fine because that's part of the deal, right? You know,
Right.
so
Right.
in order to get true acceptance, you need to show all the different aspects of yourself ultimately. So it's good that you have that wisdom to know that, like, that you need to present not just the good side, the facade essentially, but that be completely truthful at like
Yeah.
at your presentation.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with my screen. It's acting up. Okay. All right.
It's okay because when your screen was blinking, the video recording was on my face, not you. So don't worry. So it wasn't recorded. Um, but your double server, I think you'll be okay when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's not like the end of the world. So
Yeah.
yeah. But anyways, let's talk about your second animal. It's consume. Um, so your consume is NT. So part of that is going to be your external image that you present to the people. And because if it's NT, it's going to be an image of someone that's smart, good at figuring things out, good at problem solving. Do you see yourself
Uh-huh.
like projecting that kind of image to others?
Yeah. It's such a weird thing because yeah, I guess when I was a little younger, I used to want to project that image of being very good at being competent or being smart and everything. Um, but I don't know. I figured out it was better to be more humane, more understanding. So yeah, that part of me is still there. Yeah, that part of me that wants to be, the smart guy in the group and have the interesting point of conversation and all that. But it's also more important for me to be a people person, someone who's always um, helping out, even if it means, um, putting aside the smart guy um, part and just kind of catering to everyone's needs, and being a little more emotional at times or being more sympathetic. But yeah, I would say that other part, the smart guy, is still in me somewhere.
Right. Well, I guess ultimately you're chasing after the FE at the bottom because that's what you want is
Yeah,
emotional connection with others.
that's kind of what it comes down to, and that kind of makes sense when he was typing me as an INTP. I could see myself that really is what I'm chasing after. I guess that inferior function, that FE, trying to just bring people together and just make them feel good about me and about themselves.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Um, I want to go back to the FE in a bit, but I want to ask you one last question with NT consume first before we jump to the FE.
Sure.
So for the NT consume, from my understanding, those individuals that have it, individuals within your quadra, not just the INTPs, but the other ones as well, like ENTPs or ISFJs and ESFJs, um, you use the consume to find solutions essentially to a problem that you need to solve.
Yeah.
It's, consume is the way you find a solution, because some people that has like, let's say anti-sleep, they try to find the solution from within, right? They try to figure it out. But for you, it's going to come from an external source. Can you share a little bit about that process for you?
Yeah. So I definitely consume a lot of things. I mean, I'll just grab different ideas from different places all over. I'll even grab it from experiences that people tell me or secondhand knowledge. But yeah, it's always with a purpose. It's either to improve my career as a writer, or it's either to help um, people in some practical way, giving either life advice or, in the religion that I'm in, we give talks or presentations. So I'll use that. I'll consume information with the idea in the back of my head was how can I present this, I guess, to the tribe in a way that can really touch them and draw them closer to God, but also improve their livelihood. Um, but yeah, sort of like it's definitely done with the intention of helping others. Yeah, it's not really, and with my writing, that yeah, I guess I'm hoping I'm answering your questions.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I want to hear from your
Individually.
perspective. So there's no right and
Yeah,
wrong answer. It's just a matter of what your perspective is. So ultimately, that's what the viewers want to see. Also, is like what your perspective is. You know.
cool.
So my next question, and I want to go back to the FE. So I want to talk about your NF play next. You have it third. It's in a hobby position. It's kind of aligned also with kind of it feels like aligned at least with your social type as well because you have demon friends, but it's third, right? So it's not like it's missing also. Kind of like your play, it's not missing because it's third, right? So you can play with the tribe, right?
Yeah,
Uh, I do want to ask first before I go deep into the NF play is the FE aspect of it, and also your culture, right? Because so you're Hispanic, right? Your background, you're
yeah,
you're American, right? But like your cultural background is still Hispanic, right? Like
yeah.
Latino. So, from my understanding with the Hispanic culture or Latino culture, because I've traveled to every single South American country personally, so I'm like very like aware of it, and I've been like in Central America as well. Um, it's a very emotional culture. Feeling is something that's huge within that culture. So do you feel like even though you're like an INTP and you're double activated TI, that the fact that you're Hispanic, do you feel like that culture has benefited you a lot for making sure that you're actually using that FE as much as possible? Because like, with the Hispanic culture, you just can't help but like hug and kiss each other, and like just be very passionate with the emotions. So I just want to hear your perspective on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So specifically, I'm Mexican, but yeah, it's definitely played a role. When I was younger, I guess I was so sickened sickened by the over emotional aspect of my culture, the hugging and the kissing, and I was the type of kid that didn't want to be touched. I didn't want to be kissed. I didn't want to be with people. I didn't want to be at social events. Um, I hated the drinking and all that. And I guess it came from a place of me wanting to kind of distance myself from the culture. But as I've gotten older, yeah, I've kind of embraced that part of it. So yeah, I guess it's definitely helped to boost that FE and yeah, get me more engaged with my family, my extended family, and all that. So I definitely seek out those events. Wanting to be at the cookouts, um, at the parties, and at the dancing, do the dancing and all that. Even though I'm not the best, the greatest at it, I'm kind of a sloppy guy when it comes to engaging with the tribe and engaging in those activities. But I get a thrill out of it at the end of the day. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, I think your efforts would compound into the future. So as you get older, it's only going to benefit you, like being in touch with like the FE side of things and the
Yeah,
play too, like that you're doing, the cookouts and the dancing and whatnot. Um,
yeah,
However, your flavor of play is not SF though, it's NF. So it's not going to be like, like if you say like, oh, you're not going to be like the best guy at like, doing all that like FE stuff, like the dancing and stuff. Well, it makes sense. You're not like you don't have SEFE, you're NEFE, right? So
uh-huh.
when you're engaging with other people and other individuals, um, from my understanding with NF play, you're trying to see what people are up to, like what's your goals, what's your purpose, right? What's your
Yeah.
mission? Like, are those the kind of like conversations that you enjoy having when you are engaging the tribe, like the more like the back and forth, but like the more like the I wouldn't say deeper, but like more like what are you up to? Like what's your goals, kind of deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely about making some connection, and just hearing people out. I definitely want to hear what's going on in their lives. Definitely want to hear what's interesting. And if they got any big projects going on, mostly because it's a learning thing for me. I can kind of learn from different people and kind of get an experience that way. But also, I just like seeing their faces brighten up whenever they talk about their life experiences. But yeah, but I'm also yeah, I'm also just about, having fun, just talking about, nonsense stuff, whether it's just movies or books or whatever's popular on TV. Um, I like just they're kind of my way, my link back to reality. So I kind of get, what's popular now, what's good. what's the vibe like in the world, and then that kind of that's kind of my link.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like um having a pulse into like what's happening with the tribe, right? So uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so a part of NF play is also there's like a trolling aspect to it. So I want to ask if you troll people also with this. I don't know if you would because you're an IP, but I'm pretty sure you would also because there's like probably like a self-amusement side of you as well. So
Yeah.
from what I've seen people with NF play, what they do is they set traps, emotional traps specifically, right? Um, you know, like they'll say like, oh, um, what do you think of you know, like I'll just use like a simple example. It's like, oh, what do you think about like apples, for example, right? And you'll
Mhm.
be like, oh, I don't it's like the person will be like, I don't really like apples. And you're like, oh, I don't like people that like apples, that don't like apples. And they'll be like, what? They're like, oh no, actually I don't mind apples. And you're just like trolling them, right? To see like to get an
Uh,
emotional reaction out of that person. So,
yeah.
you see yourself like setting those like traps to like this to get people like to like emotionally react kind of deal, or not so much because you're like an OI.
Yeah. It's very specific people. I kind of have to read them for a while first before I ever do something like that. Because yeah, if I see the person is gonna get offended, I definitely won't do it. But if I see that it's someone who kind of does it too to others, I'll definitely do some bantering, some heavy bantering or some heavy trap setting. But it's not consistent. I don't look for it necessarily. I see it's more like if I find it and I see that the person is receptive to it, yeah, I'll definitely go in. Like a friend of mine just last the other night we were at eating sushi, and she just kept going with all these questions at me, and she I think she's like an ENFP or something. But yeah, I definitely started engaging in some heavy banter, and don't know if I hurt her feelings by the end of the night, but it's definitely something that I like when I can find someone and that can do it too.
I see. So if the person can handle it, then you will engage in it, and do you find it fun when you're in that mode?
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's entertaining. Yeah, just finding inconsistencies in the way they think and stuff like that. But it definitely, if they start, showing signs of, hey, back off or something, yeah, I'll definitely, I'll definitely back off or just apologize. But yeah, I kind of have to be a little conscious of what I'm doing, just to I don't hurt anyone.
Right, right. Because ultimately you're an IP, you don't want tribe hate, right? So that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to ask you about your fourth animal. You have SF blast last. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
this is kind of like there's a lot of aspect to it, but one of the biggest one is obviously behavioral correction. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
like someone's like not acting appropriately in a tribe situation. I have seen INTPs actually use this when they get older. Usually when INTPs are younger, from what I've seen, you're not confident enough
Mhm.
to use it, but as you get older, you see like, oh, there is like merit to using the SF blast, right? Even if people don't like it, it's still kind of necessary, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
have you used it personally, or do you feel like you're too young to actually start like correcting people's behavior?
Um, no, let me think. Um, Yeah, I'll definitely, I think if it gets to a point where I see that people are heading towards a path that's not going to end well for them, I'll definitely pull them aside and be like, hey, you got to stop what you're doing. You got to stop and think for a second before you take the next step. Um, and it really depends on if I've tried to correct them before and they're just not receptive, then I'll definitely won't keep trying. I have a very tiny threshold of what I'm willing to put out. Um, but yeah, definitely, especially if it's a loved one or if it's a dear friend, I'll definitely go to them and be like, hey, this is what the situation is. This is how you're being perceived by others. You got to do something to change it, or it's not going to go well for you. Um, but yeah, it's not too often, but it does when I need to jump in and do it. Yeah, I will jump in and do it.
Gotcha. Now, for the SF blast itself, the blast aspect of it, one of the things about it is difficulties with getting started. Is that something you find yourself struggling with, like getting started, or is it something like it's kind of okay because you're still a double server?
You know, I don't know. I think I'm trying to remember what the report said. It said something about like, you know, who you are is dictated at the end of the year by with kind of the deficits, at the end of the year, whether the tribe thinks that you're being too slow to communicate or taking too long to start or whatever. I feel like I don't do a whole lot throughout the year. And but when I look around, when I ask my folks and when I ask my friends, they're like, hey, you're doing all this stuff. I mean, what you gotta, keep slow it down, you just gotta take it easy sometimes. So I'm like, but what exactly am I doing? You're like, well, you're doing this, 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 and this, and this. And I'm like, um, yeah, but I feel like there's more that I could, geez, there's more that I could keep doing, you know? Um, and I guess, yeah, I mean, I set myself goals and I try to reach them. So I'm definitely not the type of person that likes to just sit back and just keep thinking, oh, how am I going to accomplish this? I definitely want to get into action as quick as possible and get it done. Now, if you're talking about my work life in the office, that may be a little different because it's my kind of I don't really at the moment necessarily like the place where I work. So there's definitely a deficit, a void there of people saying, "Hey, you're not really doing this, this, and this." But I don't really know if it's because I'm blast last or because there's some sort of just not a whole lot of interest in my work. But outside of that, yeah, people say one thing, but I'm thinking another. That yeah, I think there's still times when I kind of second guess myself and I try to, I um, kind of don't take initiative as much as I would like to. But I try to catch myself and say, hey, time's running out. You got to jump on this quick, or else the opportunity is going to slip from right under you. So yeah.
I think for your type specifically, because you're lead sleep, this your strength would be prioritization. So you're not gonna be all over the place. So from a productivity standpoint, you are going to get a lot of things done just because you prioritize the important things, right? So you might have like
Mhm.
relatives or friends that are like high play. They're like all over the place. So it doesn't seem like they're getting anything done, you know? So they might look
Mhm.
at you and be like, oh my God, you're so productive. But it's because you're like you have your priorities straight, right? And also you're also like a social type three. So you have savior drive, right? So you have the self-motivation to achieve certain goals without the need for tribe motivation, essentially.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I do want to mention the social types next. I want to start off with outlooks first because the way that David Jan recently described social type number threes is you guys have supposedly a negative outlook of the past and a negative outlook of the future, or pessimistic. Sorry. Do
Mhm.
you find yourself having like more pessimistic outlooks, or is that not true? You're also OI too, so that would also contribute
Yeah.
to.
So are you asking if I have negatives of both the past and the future?
Yeah, more pessimistic on the outlooks on the future and the past. Yes.
Okay. Um, the past. I mean, the past. No, no. Pessimistic. No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, there's nothing that I regret so far of my past, or there's nothing that I would do entirely differently. Um, yeah, I think all my experiences brought me to where I am today, so I'm definitely grateful for them. In regards to the future, um, there are times when I feel stuck. I mean, there are times when I feel like this is, my reality forever. Um, but it's temporary, and I'm able to pull myself out of it. But but no, I think the future has got a whole lot of opportunities ahead of it, ahead for me and ahead for others. So, um, but yeah, I mean, I can definitely see I do sometimes when I'm in a bad state of mind, I do find myself, in that state of being trapped and saying, hey, I'm not going to get anywhere because of these circumstances. They're just lining up like this. And so it kind of takes a while for me to break out of that. But once I do break out, and the whole world is my playfield and I can, mold it to however I need to, do whatever I need to get whatever I need done. But yeah, overall, I wouldn't say it's too pessimistic. I would just say it's very maybe realistic. But yeah, that's my outlook on it. Mhm.
Well, it's interesting to hear your perspective because it's the TI perspective. Because sometimes I talk to people with FI who are number threes, and it is quite different from how the TI perspective seems to see the outlook, regardless of the social type. So, um, I want to give
How
you
does
an
an F?
sorry.
I'm sorry. How does an FI look at it, or how would or is it entirely based on their social type?
Yeah, I mean, like one of my friends is a social type number three, and he's very pessimistic about both the past and the future. Like when he thinks about the past, he's an ICJ jumper. When he thinks about
Uh-huh.
the past, he thinks about like all the bad things that happened in the past. Like, oh, my grandmother passed away. I got sick from eating too much food that, you know, made my health is bad, so like definitely pessimistic at what happened in the past. And when you think about the future, it's like there's nothing in the future that's worth, fighting for because there's nothing worthwhile because it's all negative. Like, oh, climate change, traffic's getting worse, corruption in the government, you know. I mean, this guy's an observer, so obviously there are gonna be more things related as opposed to people related, right? So you can
Hmm.
actually see the outlook is negative on both ends, right? My mother, I think, is also a social type three, and she looks at the past is also very negative. She has TI though. My mom's an ISFJ jumper, but in the future is also like pessimistic. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, you can get sick, all this stuff could happen. So I don't know if it's like an IJ thing or whatnot, but I am seeing like a lot of number threes have pessimistic outlooks, but not all of them, obviously, right? Like some number threes I've seen, they're like they start off with something pessimistic, but then they kind of they can flip it to something more realistic also. So I think ultimately it depends on the person because like if you look at the social type number two, the way David Chan described number twos is they're like they call it like what's that hopium, like they're like so optimistic about both the past and the future that they don't see like the negatives that happen. Obviously this is not 100% true for everybody. There is just like a clustering of this
Right.
happening because with
Right.
with Dave, for example, he was very pessimistic when he was young, even though he is a number two, right? you know and then for me, for example, like I am I'm kind of like 50-50. I have pessimism and I have optimism for both the past and the future, right? So I am leaning towards optimism because I am a social type number two. So there is like kind of like that blind optimism happening there. But I do
Uh-huh.
see myself like as I get older, I am more becoming more realistic about it. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to say here. It's like the difference. But I do want to give you an example though, so that maybe we can flush it out better with your description.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the number ones are the best example. So it's easier to see with them. So number ones have a pessimistic outlook of the past and a positive outlook of the future, right? And the reason
Hmm.
why, because the way now number one sees it is in the past, they're a loser. Okay. That's why it's pessimistic. The future, they're a
Hmm.
winner. So that is like
Yeah.
it's like the simplest way for me to describe it.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, you can kind of see, oh, it's like, okay, that makes sense for number ones, right?
Yeah.
And then number
Yeah.
four is like the opposite, where the future is pessimistic and the past is positive because they have like nostalgic memories of
Yeah.
interacting with the tribe, right? So it's easier
Hmm.
to see with the ones and fours as opposed to the twos and threes, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
so looking at it from that perspective, how do you see the past and the future then? Your outlook?
Um, yeah, I mean, definitely, I don't want to go back to that person that I was in the past.
Yeah.
You know, I can only, I'm hoping that I'm improving with each step. So yeah, I guess in that sense, yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to go back to that to the person that I was, a couple years ago. That quiet, always contentious little brat who thought he was a know-it-all. Um, but the yeah, I definitely don't want to. Yeah, I definitely don't treasure the past in any way like that. I'm grateful, like I said, for the memories of it, and all the experience I gained from it. Um, and then the optimism of the future is, yeah, I think I'm more, um, I'm dialed in more on the future of what it holds for me and the friends and people that I can meet along the way, and the more improvement that I can make on myself. I kind of just look at myself. I'm like, well, if I keep going at this rate and I tweak this little thing, this is the result I'm going to get hopefully down the line, and you can only go from there. Mm-hmm.
So I do have a question for you. So when you got your social type as a three,
Uh-huh.
did you question it at all that you might be a number one instead? Just out of like curiosity, just because if you're looking at like the past and the future, like the past is kind of more pessimistic than the future, right? Because the future is opportunity, right? Opportunity to be the better version of yourself. All the past is
Right.
like, oh, all kind of your like shortcomings essentially, right? And also one of the cross checks for social type number one is social type number ones tend to have a more professional demeanor, which I can see with
Mhm.
you. When I talk to you, you have like a very professional demeanor to you. So have you given it any thoughts like, oh, you're a three, right? Which is very close to one because the savior flex both exists for both, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
the biggest difference between like the ones having demon specialization and the number threes have that in a savior state. Obviously, they're first, right? So, what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that? When it comes to like your social type?
Yeah. I didn't look at. So what's the remind me again, what was social type one? It's not specialization first. It's what's first, and then what's second, and what's third, and what's fourth for
Yeah,
number ones.
so social type ones, they're ego flex first, followed by generalists, and then specialist third, and last but not least is the friends coin, right? So the friends would be last. And then they would be good at generalists also, kind of like what number twos do. Because like the way I see it is like the ones and twos have a focus on the macro, while threes and fours have a focus more on like the micro, like the
Mhm.
actual task, right? So
Uh-huh.
yeah, where do you see yourself in that spectrum?
Yeah, I guess. Oh gosh, I mean, I guess I would fit maybe more description of one, but I definitely don't think I don't know because I definitely don't see as friends as a demon. I kind of see them as a necessity um, in my life. I couldn't possibly see myself doing all the stuff that I'm doing if it weren't for my friends. Um, so yeah, when I saw the description of three, I'm like, yeah, this does fit me perfectly because I'm not putting out fires in all the departments. You know what I mean? That yeah, talking it through, I could see myself also as a one, but I think I would still stay more with the three just because of that demon friends in one.
Right. So that makes sense because if because number three still take relationships, they don't throw it away as easily as ones do, is what I'm trying to say, Because
Uh-huh.
ones use relationships as a stepping stone to get to the next spot, and then they have no problem like just discarding that relationship if it's no longer of use, right? But like number threes, they're not necessarily gonna be as quick to do that, as number ones.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely a lot more selective with my friends, but yeah, I treasure my relationships, even if it's going south for a long time. I'll try to preserve it as much as I can because I do value them.
Gotcha. I mean, ultimately, when you look at relationships, like, there's two areas that you want to focus on, right? Like number one
Uh-huh.
is like, is this relationship like helping you grow as a person, right? Like, are you being challenged? Like they might not necessarily be positive, but they they,
Uh-huh.
they can still be challenging you to grow, which is like a positive thing, in my opinion. Um, and then on the other side, maybe the friendship or relationship, it doesn't make you grow necessarily, but it brings so much joy in your life that it's still a good thing, from like a more like FE, like, hey, you know what? When I'm
Yeah,
with this person, I feel good, So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
still a good relationship to have. So I feel like for relationships, those are the two what you're after, right? It doesn't always have to be like grow, grow, grow to be the best. Like number one's maybe might be quickly to discard even the second aspect, like the joy aspect. They're like, who cares about that? It's all about growth and being the best, right? But like the other social type might be like, nah, if I feel good with this person, why would I discard this relationship, right? It's still a good one.
yeah, because I mean, maybe a few years back, maybe I don't know, maybe at some point I would have been a one, just completely block everyone who wasn't contributing to my growth, but I mean, I just like having fun. I mean, if my friends can help me to have fun and get me out of my shell, then you're good in my book. I mean, I'll keep you along forever. That's all it is for me.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Because then they essentially become your outlet for your FE, right? Which is amazing. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and I wouldn't be able to do stuff that I would do by myself, unless it weren't for them, Yeah, they take me places, they give me ideas, so that's what I treasure most than anything. People with different perspectives. I mean, people are completely different from me.
gotcha. Well, since you are a social type three that you got typecast, can you talk about like being a specialist then and like honing the craft, making sure that it's as good as possible. In the areas that you care about, obviously, not your day job, but like your own
Yeah,
personal
yeah. So definitely, yeah. I think writing is a big thing that takes up a lot of my headspace, and also trying to help out things and to do things in the congregation. But yeah, everything that I do, it's to perfect my writing. And if I feel like my writing isn't up to snuff to my own standards, then I definitely keep working at it day and night. And I'll grab resources from whatever, whether it's online lectures or I'll look at other books, other writings, or I'll go to workshops and workshop it. But yeah, it's definitely about making myself the best writer out of everyone else. I'm constantly competing with writers who are no longer alive. Like the greatest, and I'm measuring my talent to theirs. And then not only that, when I feel like I've gotten better than those writers, then I'm measuring myself to myself. So it's definitely an ongoing competition, not with others and with more importantly with myself. But yeah, everything I do is for writing, and everything I do is also just to make myself, a better Christian. Seeing how I can help others in different facets of their life, and how I can improve my public speaking skills, and sort of relay messages, that are sometimes abstract or spiritual to a whole public, and make it general, just make it very understanding to them. So those are the two things that I kind of put a lot of focus in specializing the most. And then with work, day job, it's office administrative work. Yeah, I do try to get as much resources as I can to know how to do it the most effectively or and most efficiently, and get the job done and make it easier for everyone else. I kind of don't want it to be like where my department is the one that's dragging everyone, to hell. I want it to be so that, everyone kind of can rely on me and knows how to get their job done. And if I'm out of the office, it's such a simple process that I've left for them that they know they can pick it up from where I left it. But yeah, the specialization in that sense is very important. That's kind of how I go about it.
Gotcha. Well, that's a really good description. I like how like ST clear it was. Um, I do want to ask you though about the opposite side of that, which is the generalist coin. So can you share a little bit about the difficulties with that, like the generalist coin, you know?
Yeah. So I like I said, I try to help out as much as I can, but I do feel like it's everyone's obligation to perform to the best that they can. Um, so sometimes at work I'll kind of assume a lot of things. I'll assume people are doing the work that they should be doing. And so I'll just be focused on mine. And then when someone, is not doing what they're supposed to, then I'll kind of react and be like, well, what's going on? I mean, like, what are you doing? Rather than me jumping in and helping in any meaningful way, I'm kind of just, sitting back and just hoping that they'll resolve it in their own time. But it's very hard for me to jump around and do everything unless my responsibility is to be some sort of manager, and then which has happened. I'm kind of responsible for everything, so I will jump around and make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to. But if I'm not in that position, I'm just assigned one specific task. I kind of don't worry too much about what's going on around me.
Gotcha. Now, because you're a not generalist, sorry, because you're a specialist, one pitfall I've seen from other specialist individuals is they sometimes have a tendency to let certain important part of their lives kind of fall to the side, which affects them negatively. So, some number threes, they are so focused on their work, their craft, that they forgot to take care of their health. So their health is like falling apart, for example, right? Or some number threes, they forget their relationships, right? Because they're so focused on
Uh-huh.
their tasks, right? So there's something that's gonna fall to the wayside, right? Do you
Uh-huh.
yourself like having any issues with that personally?
Not help. I think it does tend to help with my relationships. I don't give it enough attention when I'm really like zeroed in on my work. So yeah, I definitely do see sometimes my relationships falling on the wayside. But I try to, like I said, I try to catch myself when that's happening and um, pick it back up. You know, um, the work will always be there for me, but sometimes these friends won't be there for me always. So I kind of give it priority to be at those important things that I need to attend to first. So
Gotcha. And then I want to ask you questions now about being an IP specifically. Um,
mhm.
can you share a little bit about like the fear of tribe hate and what that's like for you?
Fear tribe hate. Fear tribe hate. Fear tribe hate. Yeah. Do I fear the tribe hate? I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to answer. I don't feel like hmm.
Can I give you some examples?
Sure, yes, please.
Okay. So like your tribe hate would be FE, like negative emotions from the tribe, essentially, right?
Uh,
So how would you feel if the tribe excommunicated you from like, doing like FE stuff, right? Like the barbecues and get-togethers and stuff. They're like, you're not welcome anymore. We don't like you, like
I think I would rationalize it. I think I would probably put it in my head, oh, I've probably done something, they've seen something that they don't like, and yeah, I'll definitely work to gain their respect again, and to gain their trust or whatever I've infringed on. But yeah, I definitely won't. I'll definitely reflect on it a lot, and I'll try to bring myself back into there because it's definitely something that yeah, I think it's just something that I need to do. I would be compelled to do something about it, but I wouldn't say that my life. I wouldn't say that my life would feel like it's falling apart if that were to happen. I feel like I would just keep doing what I need to do, and slowly and through the progress, try to regain that tribe love again.
I see. So you would go into damage control then and then make sure that you
Yeah,
then try to solve it as effectively as you can, while still
yeah,
fulfilling your goals and stuff.
yeah.
Okay,
And I would definitely give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll definitely say it's not them, it's me. I gotta do something because they definitely I've done something to them.
I see. I see. Well, that's cool. That's cool. That's good to know that. That's good to hear what your perspective is like. So Juan, you requested for this interview. I am curious, is there anything specific that you wanted us to discuss about during this interview of yours that we haven't discussed yet, or something that you were thinking about before you reached out to me, so that we can address it since you have this platform right now, or something that you want people to know about yourself that we haven't discussed.
Yeah, yeah. I guess understanding a little more about the NE. I mean, what exactly is it doing for me, or what is it not doing for me? I don't really. I think that's kind of the thing that I kind of had difficulty with. I mean, I understand the TI is kind of judging and you know uh, creating ideas or refining thoughts, and the SI is kind of organizing all these experiences, and the FE is trying to help me to work with the tribe. But what exactly is the NE doing, and why is it, what is it doing?
What the purpose is of the NE
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
your personality type specifically?
For my personality type, yeah.
Um, Let me think about it. Because for my perspective, because I'm lead NE, right? So the one thing that NE people do is you future project and you see future possibilities, right? So for
Uh-huh.
example, like I live in Canada, right? So our prime minister just stepped down from being the leader of the country. So, like, what can happen? So there's different features that can happen, right? Number one, someone worse takes over for him. Number two, someone better takes over for him. Number three, the opposing party will win the next election coming up near the end of the year, and that could mean either positive or negative. So it's like the way you could see it is like kind of like branches, and like there's different possibilities that can occur, right? And
Uh-huh.
what's ultimately going to influence the trajectory of the future is the SI, right? Like, oh, what are the SI steps? Like, if you do this one sensory thing, it could change the trajectory of the future, essentially, right? So, so what Annie's doing is almost like what do you call it? Like if you work for like any big organization, they always do something called forecasting. right?
Uh-huh.
So it's almost like forecasting, but taking into consideration both the negatives and positives. So you have like a huge spectrum to choose from, and your TI, in your case, my case, FI can influence that trajectory as well, right?
Uh-huh.
Because you're like, well, this is the path that I want. I see all these possibilities, but I want this specific pathway. So
Uh-huh.
then you're gonna use your TI then to influence um your destiny or your fate, you could say. So it goes towards that direction. So you're gonna do all the
Uh-huh.
SI steps that
Uh-huh.
TI works for you to go towards that specific trajectory. But the thing with NE compared to NI though is NI is like you're so sure that this is the trajectory that's gonna happen. With NE,
Mhm.
it's never ending branches. So um 5 years from now, you're like, oh, I have just gathered this piece of information that like I'm seeing this like recurring pattern with your NE, right? 'Cause NE is about gathering patterns, right? And concepts. You're like,
Mhm.
this feature is not likely to happen. So I need to change the TI and SI because this is
Mhm.
not likely to occur based on what I've gathered. So that's kind of like what,
Mhm.
and I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
Mhm. It
you know,
does. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a combination of gathering and also future projecting, like
Okay.
possibilities. And yeah, yours is feminine like mine, so it's not going to be as confident as those with masculine NE. I would
Uh-huh.
have to admit though that those people with masculine NE have an advantage over people with um those with feminine NE, because if you look at all the successful people across the board, um, like Warren Buffett, um, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, they all have masculine NE, right? You know,
Uh-huh.
and even those with FI, like in the YouTube space, do you know who Mr. Beast is?
Uh-huh. Mr. Beast, yep.
Yeah, yeah, right. So he has like, masculine NE also, right?
Uh-huh.
So like, and he's the top YouTuber. So there seems to be a correlation between masculine NE and success. I'm not trying to be like a
Uh-huh.
downer here because you're MF, right? But like just saying like it's what the lesson here is like when you see those branches, even if you're uncertain at the branch, you should blindly follow the one that you think is going to be likely to happen because there is something into it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
'Cause those people with the
Uh-huh.
masculine NE, they see the future trajectories of all the different possibilities, and they're confident in picking the right one.
Uh-huh.
And the SI is feminine for them, so that means the steps needed to get to that point is flexible. So the steps
Uh-huh.
is be flexible while the trajectory, after you've done the projecting, you should hone on one and then go focus on that for like a year or two before you change trajectory. Like I'll give you a concrete
Uh-huh.
example. There was an interview with Mr. Beast recently when he was doing future projections, right? They asked him, it's like, so the last year, all the videos that you did well was like $1 versus $1 million, or like something like that. Like he'll do like a stunt like that, right? Like $1 million flight versus $1 million flight, or like $1 um hotel room versus $1 million hotel room, right? So
Mhm.
for 1 year, he did a lot of videos like that, but the following year he completely stopped. And they're like, why did you stop? It's working. And it's
Mhm.
because his NE projected that no, it's gonna get stale. It's gonna get
Uh-huh.
stale. So even though there's still
Uh-huh.
life into it, he'd rather stop and create something different. And he's
Uh-huh.
constantly future projecting, but he does like 1 year gaps. Like, well, he'll go all in at NE before he switches. Because ultimately with
Uh-huh.
NE, you're channel changing,
Uh-huh.
right? So because of the channel changing aspect of NE, so with the masculine NE, they will commit to something for 1 year and then they will channel change deliberately, deliberately, based
Uh-huh.
on what they're forecasting they've seen. So and
Sure.
it's not like it's based on complete guess, right? It is backed up by the SI, right? You do have
Uh-huh.
data um to what do you call it? To make an intelligent guess, you could say, right? Especially you have TI, right? So
Uh-huh.
on top of having the SI data, you have the TI to really analyze it to make sure it's true, right?
Uh-huh.
People with FI were not as logical as you guys, right? You know,
Uh-huh.
so you do have the strength in that respect.
Cool. Cool. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I was just a little curious as to how exactly it works in my case, but I can definitely see where it's how it comes into play now.
Yeah,
Very cool.
100%. Like like both with your day job and your in your craft, right, as a writer, right? You know,
Uh-huh.
like for example, like, oh, you could get a job that enhances your writing as opposed to just paying the bills, right? So that way when you go back to um working on your writing, you've already done some reps at work also, like in that area. So it's you've compounded the speed of your growth essentially. You know what I mean? You know,
Right, right,
right? Because
right.
if you weren't using NE, you would be like, I'm just gonna pick the job that pays the most, even though it doesn't help your craft. So like if you didn't use the NE and look at the trajectory, if you pick the trajectory to pay the most money, um,
Uh-huh.
but it doesn't necessarily work on your craft, then if you look at it from like a 5, 10 year time span, you might be like, oh, I might be slowed down in the next 5 years if I pick something that paid more but doesn't work on my craft. But in 10 years or 20 years time, I'm actually gonna make more money or be more well off financially because I'm better at
Mhm.
my craft. And then it's also an area where I feel more motivated. So looking at it from more like emotional standpoint, because motivation is emotions. Motivation comes
Right.
from feeling, right? So
Mhm.
um, then then you're doing work that you enjoy and you feel stimulated by. Hence, you work even harder at it, and hence you
Mhm.
get to your destination faster. You know,
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of the way I see it is, I never want writing to be sort of like a like drudgery or anything, I want it to
yeah,
be something that's spontaneous and flexible for me and kind of that I can do at any time. And so work is really just a means of sponsoring or, paying for that hobby, I like to eat good food. I like to visit, amazing places. I like to do things. So, um, having a good paying job, just helps me to not have to rely too much on writing on being on source of income. Because when I'm really stressed and I really have to do something, writing will become something that I absolutely hate if I have to, if I'm relying on it to make a living. But if it's something that kind of comes freely to me, and flows, then it's definitely more inspirational that way. At least that's how I kind of viewed it. That's how I kind of planned it. But if I can somehow make money doing it full time and not have to, be on that kind of high alert of always doing it to make money, yeah, that would be the ideal situation. I don't know how Stephen King feels. I mean, this guy's like writing, his output is amazing.
yeah.
But I don't know how if he's at some point just having to rely on writing to sustain himself, or is he's just cranking things out because they're just coming to him um, from the woodwork.
You know that Stephen King's an INTP also, right?
Oh, is he a jumper or is he just a regular?
Oh,
Uh,
that's a good question. Actually, I don't remember. Let me check. But well, I mean, if you look at Stephen King, he makes money from royalties, so he doesn't need to worry about money. So you
right.
know, he could take his time to make money. Oh no, he's standard.
Standard. Okay.
Yeah, consume, play, sleep, blast, the same as you. And he is
Okay.
double feminine. So, um,
So what is it? Mhm.
with double feminine, the SI is not a threat essentially. So money is not a threat. So for you, it is. That's why you feel the way you do about like, like the having a job that pays so that you don't you can create without you know diluting it and hating it because you have to pay the bills, right? So because the
Mhm.
SI is the threat for both of us because we both have masculine SI, right? So
Okay.
so our trajectory essentially would look different than like someone like Stephen King or even Mr. Beast, because Mr. Beast, he has feminine SI, right? So when he was making videos, he went all in the videos because he didn't care about the SI. The SI is not a fear, right? Like the money's not a fear.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
but
because Stephen King, when he was writing, I mean, he was just he was working on a laundromat and he was doing I think he was a high school teacher, so he was just doing whatever jobs he needed to
yeah,
support his family. But yeah, his whole dedication was to writing.
right. But the masculine NE, I guess, also helped him with a trajectory because he was
Uh,
very sure that this is gonna happen. So he wasn't afraid to go all in his craft while he does like menial jobs on the side to pay the bills, right? You know, um, But I'm on the same boat as you too, because I'm also doing the same thing, right? Like my craft is my YouTube channel, right? But I have a day job. I work in fitness, so that pays the bills. So for certain people, that's what works. For some certain other people, then you can go all in. So to each their own. Essentially, what works for you is going to be different from the other person, right?
and is there a way to? I mean, I don't know if it's possible. Is there a way to make that? my NE masculine and make my SI feminine? Is that even like possible at all, or is that just wishful thinking? What is that?
Yeah, you definitely can. I'm doing it this year actually. So I took a year off from my day job and I went all
Uh-huh.
on my YouTube. And actually it's paying off because like I don't know if you've been following my channel for a while, but like, you know, like before I left Canada, I was at like 3,900 subscribers. I'm almost at 20,000 now. So,
Uh-huh.
I definitely for 1 year I so ultimately you're gonna have masculine SI and feminine NE, but you can do experimental gaps is the way I see it is where for 1 year or 2 years you're gonna go masculine NE and feminine SI. It's a little bit scary. The SI is slow, but you can do those experimental gaps. I'm doing it right now to myself because I'm like, you know what, Kendrick, let's do an experiment this year. I'm gonna go masculine NE feminine SI. So the SI is gonna
Uh-huh.
be more feminine. I'm not gonna look at my finance as much. It's a little bit
Uh-huh.
scary not tracking it as with like so much like the masculine SI way, but I'm gonna go
Uh-huh.
focus on the vision as opposed to the
Uh-huh.
sensory for 1 year. And it's been a really interesting experiment because for me, like I'm like, hmm, trusting the NE has paid off because I actually when I left Canada, because I'm traveling for 1 year right now. I'm in Philippines talking to you. But next week I'll be in Vietnam. So I'm like traveling from country to country as a digital nomad, focusing on my YouTube channel, right? But like what I found really interesting was like, okay, because the focus is the vision, not the what do you call it? Like the organizing or protecting the finances, because when I left Canada, I didn't have enough money actually to finish the 1 year trip. I only had
Uh-huh.
enough for 5 months, but I'm almost finished my trip. I'm like, I've managed to make it work somehow. Just trusting the NE, trusting the vision,
Yeah.
you know,
Uh-huh.
and like trusting like the kind of content that I need to produce to
Uh-huh.
sustain myself for 1 year. And it's been a very interesting experiment because now I'm like, I think I kind of want to do it every year now, like where I
Uh-huh.
would set aside like maybe not the 1 year that I'm doing right now, but like doing like a 3 month challenge, where like I go all in masculine NE, feminine SI. I don't even worry about the money. I only focus on the
Uh-huh.
vision, only the vision,
Uh-huh.
because
Uh-huh.
I'm now seeing like there is something into it where when you focus on the vision as opposed to the concrete, that you can get ahead faster, even if it's kind of like blindly guessing that it's gonna work, you know.
Uh-huh.
But I think there's like a happy medium somewhere for us with feminine NE, masculine SI, where there is like a comfort where you can do it. So for me, I feel like I can set aside maybe like 4 months a year to do it, and then the other time, and I can go back to my masculine SI and feminine NE.
So
So
using this projector, you think it's pretty sustainable? Do you feel like you're like do you feel like you're about to hit a crash, or do you feel like, man, I can keep going at this for a pretty long time? What's your energy like? I mean, how do you feel?
okay, so I'm doing 2 more months of experiment. I want to do 4 months actually, but I'm gonna do 2 months first. I
Uh-huh.
feel like I'm about to hit a wall, but the wall has been the wall has been broken so many times now that it's
Yeah.
it's now in my SI because there were so many
Uh-huh.
times where I'm like, okay, well, I'm out of money. I'm done. I'm out of money, right? And then
Yeah.
next month I make 3 grand all of a sudden in my YouTube channel, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? Like, what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
Like,
You know,
so I can keep going. Um, so it's
yeah,
like,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going.
sorry, what did you want to say?
No, I keep going. I don't want to cut you off.
No, I just wanted to say, like, like many times I thought I hit the wall already, but then I broke
Yeah.
through the wall. So many times I broke through the wall already that I'm like right now, I'm in that scary situation again where like, oh crap, I'm running out. Only have enough funds for 2 more months before, I have to go back home to Canada, right? And then, but I'm certainly gonna give it my 100% effort in the next 2 months to produce. I'm gonna make an announcement video after I hit 20,000 subscribers of like how I'm gonna change some content in my YouTube channel. Like the
Mhm.
interviews are not going away, but I want to change some content, right?
Mhm.
Um, but like I have been finding that trusting the NE, making it masculine, has been paying
Mhm.
off in ways that I could never imagine. I just trusted it because I'm looking at the data set, right? Like people like Jeff Bezos, Mr. Beast, Elon Musk, all those guys with masculine NE, right? And feminine SI. The track record shows that the masculine NE pays off if you trust it. So
Mhm.
I've been trusting it, and it has been paying off, and it's has been providing a multiplier of benefits. And like in my case, like my goal for last year was only 10,000 subscribers, but now I'm almost 20,000. I'm like, what the hell? Like there
Mhm.
is something to this mask than anything. I haven't quite figured out exactly what's going on so that I can um concretely describe it to other people. But
Mhm.
I think the bigger my data set becomes from this experiment, this self-experiment, the more I'm able to explain it. That trusting the masculine NE does pay off big time. So it is
Mhm.
important for those that has feminine NE to learn to solidify it, because
Mhm.
there is a lot of I cannot deny the benefit that I've personally experienced by doing this experiment on myself. So that's all I can say
Mhm.
in this topic.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's definitely because it's funny you mentioned it because it's definitely my it's been my mindset a little bit too these past few months. Um, I don't know if it was because when I thought that I was an INTJ, I was kind of trying to cater to my SE. So I'm thinking, well, if I just put myself in the moment, if I just stop really trying to overanalyze things and trying to do all this consuming, if I just jump in at things, things will work out a whole lot better than me going through these tidal waves of all of a sudden, going through these chaos and everything. So, and I felt like it's definitely helped a lot. When you just jump into things and you're trying to trust the vision that you have for yourself, you opportunities started open up for me, other jobs that would not take up so much time in my day. And I started focusing more on my writing, and I was actually getting good feedback for my writing and actually getting more published out there. So yeah, it was just, yeah, just like you. I mean, I'm still new to it. It's only been like a month or two that I'm starting it, but it's definitely I definitely do see the benefits of just trusting that vision you have for yourself and just jumping in and doing it.
I think the interesting thing also about masculine NE is it almost feels like almost like sleep. It's like prioritization almost, you know.
Uh-huh.
Because you're prioritizing the most important thing. And
Right.
ultimately the purpose of the SI is to protect you. It's not like a safety net, right? So
Uh-huh.
I mean, there is like a healthy way to do it where like you do have a safety net of finances and then you go all in your vision. And then once the
Right.
finance runs out, then you can evaluate afterwards. You
Uh-huh.
know, the did you get ahead that the financial sacrifice was worth it or not,
Right.
essentially, right?
Right.
Where-
Right. Right.
and then if you make that analysis for yourself, then you could say, then it's worth doing this again because you
Right.
if you 2x 5x your growth,
Uh-huh.
and it's only this X financial loss, then
Uh-huh.
you know for a fact that eventually the growth will also increase the financial gain in the future, you know? So, and also from like a
How you're
personal,
looking at it.
sorry?
That's pretty cool how you're looking at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing like a cost analysis and everything. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm a lead NT, so like I'm not a traditional ENFP at all. Like I'm a weird ass ENFP, right? You know, like look, if you look at my type, like I've had this discussion with people. I'm literally like I'm an NTST. Can you
Uh-huh.
like what kind of ENFP is that? Like NTST ENFP? It's so weird. Like, but I see it as like a benefit also. Like I'm like I can see the I see the logic, and then I can do the SC steps. But I'm not missing the
Uh-huh.
end also because I know like okay, long-term happiness wise, I know this is what's gonna bring me the most joy. So I need to do this,
Uh-huh.
right? So I feel like I'm lucky. I got a good type. Like I do think there's like better types than others. Like I know some people said, oh, it balances out. I don't think so. I actually think there's like certain types that um is better than others. Uh,
You got the Wonka golden ticket, my friend. It's working. It's been working out for you, and I think it's going to keep working out for you. I was actually reading your. I was doing a little bit. I always do research on people, but I read an article that you wrote about your personal experience of why you were traveling the 198 UN countries. I think you wrote it a while back, and I was actually amazed at your life experience. You know how your childhood upbringing from like this from basically riches to rags, but how you kind of pulled yourself out of it. I mean, that was pretty impressive writing, and it felt really really raw and really true. And I'm seeing the results of it right now.
right. No, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I do remember. I know that article you're referring to also. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So that article actually was like one of the big turning point for me because when I wrote that article, it came from my FI. And
Uh-huh.
what I started realizing is, I'm demon FI, right? So, so kind of the lesson here is like when you tap into your demon, something good does occur, right? In your case, it's FE, right? So like when I wrote that article and I was really personal about it, like I talking about my past and I was really raw about like my upbringing and stuff. And I feel like I could have even done even better too, but like but I thought it was pretty raw. Um, I was watching that video that they type in the class. Her name's Vanessa Lau. Have you seen that typing video that they did? No, okay, it's okay. So they call her, like Dave was referring to her as like a really good role model for someone that's using their fourth animal. She's an ESFP, but she was using her NF sleep, and she was a social type number two. She's a social type number two also. But basically the lesson is she started doing things that she's an ESFP jumper, so she tried by herself. She started making content for other people, what other people wanted her to make, right? But then when she quit for a year, and then she came back recently and she went all in FI. Before she used to put on makeup, do her hair before the video. Now sometimes she's making a freaking video wearing her pajamas. She doesn't give a shit anymore with no makeup, right? Like absolutely doesn't give a shit. And like there's so much power to that. Like that like not giving a shit has so much power. It's so unbelievable. Like when I wrote that article, I was a little bit scared that I was exposing myself. But I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna write it, right? Because it means something to me. Um, so when I'm watching that girl, also, I'm like, there is something about like not giving a shit and just doing what you need to do, like what you want to do, that there is so much power to that. So that's why for like once I hit 20K subs, actually my goal is to transition to that. Like I'm still gonna do interviews because I think it's one of those things like where like the tribe likes it and I also don't mind it. So it's fine. It's fine. It's like a win-win, right? But there's certain contents I was producing in the past where like it was purely for the tribe. I would have like I would feel so overwhelmed and feel like I would have a panic attack waking up the next day. I have to make this content. I don't want to feel that way. I feel like you should only do 20% of that because there is still part of life where like you have to do things that you don't want to do, right? So, but that shouldn't be like the default. That should be like the side thing, right? When I wake up, I should feel like, oh, I'm gonna make this content that I want to make. So in your case, you're writing what you want to write. You know what I mean?
Right,
You know,
right, right.
so
It's what gives you joy in life. Yeah, it's what gives you purpose. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
right. And then because like ultimately people are gonna like you regardless. They're gonna like you. There's people gonna like you and people are not gonna like you, no matter what you do. So you should
Uh-huh.
just be yourself because if the moment you put on a facade, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot because
Mhm.
even from like your lead sleep, so you can understand this. Do you know how much
Mhm.
energy it takes to put on a facade? It's so draining, right? So
Yeah, that's why I try not to do it.
yeah, and if you look at the end result, there's no point because you put on
Yeah,
facade, someone's gonna hate you and like you anyways. So you might as well just
right.
do. Um, and and it's easier to maintain because you're not exerting extra effort to put on a facade. So then you can use that extra energy for something else. You know what I mean? Um,
Right, right. Yeah.
yeah, of course you should put on your best foot forward. That's also
Mhm.
good in my opinion. But
Mhm.
if you're not feeling like you can put your best foot forward that day, then don't. Just be yourself. And that's also okay. And actually it's beneficial because ultimately people connect with you better when they see your um when you're not in your best.
Mhm.
It's unrelatable to connect with someone that's always like, I'm the best, I'm gonna be the number one, I look good all the time. Like that's
Mhm.
unrelatable, right? So you
Yeah,
can't connect to
yeah.
people. So in your writing, for example, you're gonna be unrelatable if you if you were to do something like that, right? You know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's all about, being your authentic self. If you're not true to yourself, you're gonna hate yourself at the end of the day. I mean, and that takes up a lot of energy too. Just, constantly berating yourself, being why am I like this when I'm not really, why am I pretending to be something that I'm not? Like you said, it just wastes energy. And the important people are gonna stick around. I mean, regardless, the ones that really matter, they're gonna keep reaching out to you. They're gonna stick around and be with you till the end of the road. And the ones that don't matter, well, I mean, like I said, people come and go all the time. What matters is what you're passionate about. Move forward on that, and keep the people who matter close to you as well. I mean, that's what. I mean, that's really how you can sum it up, right?
No, 100%, dude. And also, like you just need to do enough to make sure that
Mhm.
you're connecting with the tribe still. You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
I gotta work on the blast. I gotta work on the blast in the play, I guess.
yeah, yeah, you do. But like
Uh-huh.
but you only need to do enough of it. And actually it's not as much as you think, you know. It could be like once a week or even once a month, you know, goes a long way, right? So, you know,
Uh-huh.
and then like someone with you like with lead sleep, you just have to plan it, put it in your schedule, right? You know, like like okay, this is my FE time. I need my FE time, right? You know.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
with Blast, for example, you just have to communicate that to the tribe, right? Be like, hey guys, I'm gonna be unavailable from this month to this month because I'm hyper focused. But I
Uh-huh.
tell you guys what, from this month to this month, it's fiesta time, it's fun time, right? So it's like okay, the tribe is like, oh, okay, you're thinking about us still, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We're involved in your schedule, so they won't actually mind as long as you communicate, like you blast it to the tribe, right? You know,
Uh-huh.
so
I'm sorry. So how do you differentiate exactly between blast and play? Like, how do I know when I'm blasting and how do I know when it's play? Um, I'm a little uncertain about that part.
yeah, well, play is spontaneous, blast is planned, essentially.
Okay.
So if you're telling
Okay.
the tribe, hey guys, I'm gonna work from let's say January to May, focus on
Uh-huh.
myself, and
Uh-huh.
you tell them, hey guys, I'm gonna be selfish this next few months. I apologize
Okay.
ahead of time. I apologize ahead of
Right.
time, but I need to be selfish
Okay.
because you that's blast because you're planning. You know,
Okay.
play is like
Plan communication
play
then.
is like
Yeah.
your friend calls you. It's like, hey, let's hang out. You're like, okay, let's play because it's spontaneous,
Okay.
and
Right.
sometimes that's also good. There's some like you know in my opinion, you should probably do a little bit of both because they're both important.
Uh-huh.
Like once a week, you
Yeah.
should play, right?
Mhm.
Or something, right? But blasting is important because like you kind of like set expectation with the tribe,
Mhm.
and also it's also healthy because you're more predictable, right? So you're not like like surprise. I actually don't care about any of you guys, like because like
Yeah.
when you blast, like let's say like hey guys, we're gonna go on a vacation or we're gonna go have this like barbecue, like people know that you've thought about them,
Uh-huh.
so
Okay.
you plan the FE with the people,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I do see that as my weak point then because yeah, people will ask me, wait, what's been going on with you? We don't hear from you often. And I think it's because of that, my lack of communicating with them, like telling them, hey, I'm doing all right. Are you guys doing all right? But with play, yeah, I don't think I have too much problem with play because I'm pretty game for whatever people bring up my way. Even if it comes in my midweek schedules, I'm pretty game. I'll be like, you want to go out to eat? You want to go to an amusement park? I'll be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it right now. But yeah, the blasting, yeah, yeah, definitely gonna work on that part.
Yeah, dude, 100%. Because people want to know people want to know how you're doing, right? So if you tell
Yeah,
them ahead of time what's gonna happen,
yeah,
dude, you have no problem. Zero. Even if you only did it like twice a year or something,
uh-huh.
dude, your life would be so much better. Like the tribe would love you so much. They're like,
Mm.
this one guy, he's doing it right. Like you're gonna be like the role model, you know.
Yeah, because I guess the IP in me, I guess IPs tend to feel like they're selfish or whatever. So I definitely don't want to feel that way. It's definitely a demon that I try to fight. I tell myself, hey, you're being selfish. Do something about it. Tell to do something that lets others know that you're not who you think you are. You're not the selfish type. So that's definitely going to be very very helpful for me.
Dude, yeah, IPs are own they're like IPs are in my experience, IPs are like the best listeners. Okay.
Uh-huh.
They're actually not as selfish as people think they are, you know. But the problem
So
is
is it?
the communication is the problem, ultimately.
Okay, so that's what makes them be perceived as selfish, right? Right.
Yeah,
Is the selfishness something that the IP feels about himself, or is it something that the tribe feels about the IP that they're selfish?
the tribe.
Or is it,
The tribe sees
okay,
it as selfish. I mean, IPs tend to be selfish on the front end, but generous in the back end, right? So, um,
that's
but
what
if
I
you
see. Yeah.
but if you communicate, there's no problem really. It's all communication at the end of the day, right? Like
Mhm.
so if you work on your communication skills, then you go way ahead. Even for observers, like
Mhm.
observers, when we have things problem, it could be also be fixed with communication, right? So
Mhm.
like we can recruit the help of deciders to help us, right?
Uh-huh.
You know,
Uh-huh.
like
Cool.
so yeah. Anyways, dude, let's wrap up the interview here. So I appreciate you reaching out to set this up and sharing more about yourself. There's not many
Yeah.
people of your type within the people I've interviewed. So it's always good to have someone that is your
I
type.
saw that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I like seeing like representation of certain types. So I haven't seen very many people of your type come across. So I think more people is gonna come out of the woodworks now after they see you do this interview. So I think that's a good thing.
Cool. Can't wait.
Yeah, for sure. All right, dude. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too, Chandra. Thank you.
Bye bye.